I never thought a routine traffic stop on a foggy Brooklyn night would unravel my entire life. But there I was, idling at a red light on Atlantic Avenue. Heart pounding like I'd just run from something I couldn't name. The siren hooped behind me, red and blue lights slicing through the mist like accusations. And as the cop approached my beat-up Honda, his flashlight beam hit my face, pausing just long enough to make my stomach twist. "License and registration," he drawled. But when I handed them over, his partner leaned in, smirking under the brim of his hat. "You're too pretty to be driving alone this late, kid. What's a face like that doing out here?" That's when the world cracked open. The first cop, badge glinting like a bad omen, stared at my ID, his eyes narrowing not in suspicion, but recognition. "Timothy Hale," he muttered, voice dropping low, almost reverent. And before I could blink, he yanked open my door, hauling me out into the drizzle like I was yesterday's ghost. "You son of a bitch," he hissed, close enough that I could smell the stale coffee on his breath. "After all these years, you show up looking like this?" It wasn't a stop. It was a reckoning. My ex, Tobias Reed, now Officer Tobias Reed, had just pulled me over, and the shock of it hit harder than any siren. I stumbled back against the car, rain soaking through my thin jacket, my mind reeling like tires on black ice. Tobias. God. Tobias. The name alone conjured up fragments I'd buried deep. Summer nights in our cramped Queens apartment, his laugh echoing off exposed brick walls, the way his calloused hands, back when they were mechanics' hands, not cops, traced lazy circles on my skin under threadbare sheets. We'd been 22, invincible in that reckless way only broke kids in love can be. He was the rough-edged dreamer with ink-black hair and a jaw that could cut glass, fresh off a tour in the sandbox that left him with nightmares he drowned in cheap whiskey. I was the wide-eyed artist, sketching subway portraits for tourists, convinced our love could outrun the world's sharp edges. But it hadn't. 5 years ago, on a sweltering July dawn, he'd shattered us. Woke me with coffee and a ring. Not the kind you slip on a finger, but a confession. He'd re-enlisted, chasing some ghost of duty that the army had drilled into him. "It's not forever, Tim," he'd lied, eyes hollow as he packed his duffel. "Just one more hitch. For us." Lies. It turned into 2, then a civilian gig with the NYPD, and radio silence that stretched like a chasm. I'd clawed my way out of the wreckage. New city blocks, new gigs illustrating graphic novels. But the scar throbbed every time a patrol car rolled by. Now here he was, uniform crisp and unforgiving, his broad shoulders filling the doorframe of the cruiser like he owned the night. The partner, some rookie with a buzz cut and a leer, hung back, chuckling nervously. "Everything cool here, Reed?" "Guy looks like he's seen a ghost." Tobias's grip tightened on my arm, not bruising, but firm enough to anchor me to the asphalt. "Old acquaintance," he said, voice gravelly, forcing a nod. "Just a warning. Wrong turn, that's all." He released me abrupt as a slap, shoving my ID back into my palm. Our fingers brushed. Electric, unwanted, and I swear the rain stopped falling just for that beat. "Drive safe, pretty boy," he added, low enough for only me to hear, the old nickname twisting like a knife. Then he was gone, sliding into the cruiser, lights flashing once more as they peeled away. I stood there, drenched and dazed, until a honk from the car behind snapped me back. Hands shaking, I floored it home to my walk-up in bed Stewie, the engine's whine drowning out the questions clawing at my throat. How? Why now? And worst, why did seeing him, older, harder, but still him, make my chest ache like it was fresh? The next morning, sunlight sliced through my blinds like judgment, pulling me from a fitful sleep haunted by his shadow. My studio apartment was a chaos of half-finished sketches. Brooding figures inked on yellowed paper, faces that echoed Tobias's without ever quite capturing him. Coffee brewed black and bitter. I scrolled my phone for distractions, but fate, or whatever cruel puppeteer pulls these strings, had other plans. A text pinged from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Coffee. 2 p.m. The Bean on Myrtle. Don't make me come find you. T." My pulse jackhammered. Part of me wanted to ghost him, block the line and bury the past deeper. But the artist in me, the fool who chases truth in every line and shadow, couldn't resist. I showed up early, nursing a latte in the corner booth, the cafe's hum of indie folk and clattering mugs a flimsy shield. When he walked in, heads turned. Not just for the uniform slung over one arm like an afterthought, but for the way he moved, all coiled power and quiet storm. Jeans hugged his thighs, a faded Mets tee straining across his chest, and those hazel eyes scanned the room until they locked on mine. He didn't smile, just nodded, sliding into the seat across from me with the grace of a man who'd learned to tread war zones. "You look good, Tim," he said, no preamble, voice rough as sandpaper. Ordered black coffee, extra shot, same as always. Up close, the years etched fine lines around his mouth, a scar I'd never seen snaking from his temple into his hairline. Iraq souvenir, probably. Better than good. I laughed, sharp and brittle. Save the charm, officer. Last night wasn't exactly a Hallmark reunion. My fingers drummed the table, betraying the tremor. What the hell was that? You could have just let me go. His jaw clenched, steam rising from his mug like unspoken regrets. Couldn't. Saw your plate, ran it, old habit. And then, there you were. He leaned forward, elbows on the scarred wood, close enough I could catch the faint cedar of his cologne mixed with gun oil. I've been back 6 months. NYPD desk jockey by day, but patrols keep me sane. Thought I'd put you behind me. Then boom. Your face on that license, like a punch to the gut. The air thickened, charged with the weight of what-ifs. I wanted to hate him, to unload 5 years of lonely holidays and empty bedsheets. But his gaze held me captive, vulnerable, stripped bare. "Why'd you leave?" I whispered, the question slipping out raw. No warning, no goodbye that stuck. Tobias's hand twitched, like he might reach for mine, but he didn't. "Fear," he admitted, eyes dropping to the table. "The army. Chews you up, spits out pieces. I came back the first time broken, Tim. Nightmares every damn night. Sand in my throat, friends' screams echoing. You deserved whole, not wreckage. So I ran. Figured distance would fix me." A bitter chuckle. It didn't. Something cracked in me then. Not anger, but a fragile empathy. We'd both been kids playing at forever, blind to how the world grinds down dreams. And now, I pressed, voice steadying. "What, you pull me over and think, let's pick up where we left off? Life's not a rom-com, Tobias." He met my eyes again, fierce. "No. But it's a second chance. One coffee, one talk. See if the spark's still there." His boot nudged mine under the table. Accidental? Intentional? And heat bloomed up my leg, traitorous and alive. We talked for hours, the cafe emptying around us like extras fading from a scene. He spoke of deployments that blurred into nightmares, of therapy sessions in VA basements that felt like confessions. I shared my worlds. The graphic novel deal that almost tanked, the string of flings that fizzled because none had his fire. Laughter crept in, tentative. Remembering that disastrous road trip to the Finger Lakes, where our tent flooded and we ended up tangled in the truck bed under stars. By sunset, the bitterness had softened to something tentative, a bridge half built over the chasm. "Walk with me?" he asked as we stepped into the cooling air. Manhattan's skyline a jagged promise across the river. I nodded, and we wandered Myrtle Avenue, shoulders brushing in the crowd. Street vendors hawked falafel and knockoff shades. Kids on scooters weaved like comets. At a corner mural, vibrant fists raised in solidarity. Tobias stopped, tracing the colors with a fingertip. "You'd paint this better," he murmured. "Always saw the beauty in the fight." My throat tightened. "And you? You were the fight." Impulse seized me. I cupped his cheek, thumb grazing that new scar. He leaned in, breath mingling, and for a heartbeat, the city held its breath. Then his radio crackled, static and urgency, yanking him back. "Duty calls," he said, regret etching his features. "Dinner tomorrow? My place. I'll cook. Burnt ends, your weakness." I smirked, masking the flutter. "If you don't poison me." As he jogged off, I watched him go, heart a wild drum. Was this redemption or just another round of Russian roulette? Only time and Tobias would tell. But that night, alone with my sketchpad, I drew him. Not the cop, but the boy who'd stolen my heart under Brooklyn bridges. And damn if the lines didn't flow like they never had. The dinner invite burned in my pocket like a dare, but doubt gnawed at me through the next day. Teaching a life drawing class at the community center, where aspiring artists fumbled with charcoals and I demoed curves that echoed Tobias's form. Feel the tension, I told them, voice steady while my mind wandered to his. By evening, I was at his door in Bushwick, a brownstone row house with creaky stairs and the faint scent of takeout lingering in the hall. He buzzed me up, and there he stood in the threshold, sleeves rolled to elbows, tattoos snaking like secrets up his forearms, anchors and roses inked during shore leave. "Tim," he breathed, pulling me into a hug that crushed the air from my lungs. No uniform, just him, warm, solid, alive. The apartment was sparse. Couch scarred from too many crashes. Walls bare save for a framed photo of his unit. Faces grinning defiant. In the kitchen, ribs sizzled on a hot plate, sauce bubbling like our old arguments. We ate cross-legged on the floor, beers sweating condensation, trading stories like poker chips. "You ever think about us?" he asked midway through, sauce smudged on his lip. Vulnerable Tobias, rare as a solar eclipse. "Every damn day," I confessed, the words tumbling free. "Wondered if you'd come back changed. Or not at all." Our knees touched, a spark jumping the gap. Conversation veered deeper. His PTSD flares, triggered by fireworks on the 4th. My fear of commitment, rooted in his ghost. Laughter bridged the gaps, but under it simmered heat. Not the frantic kind, but slow burning, like embers waiting for wind. After, we cleaned up side by side, suds flying in an impromptu battle that left us breathless and soaked. His hand found my waist, steadying, and I turned, eyes meeting in the dim light over the sink. "Stay?" he whispered, not pushing, just offering. I did. We didn't rush. Curled on the couch instead, his head on my chest, my fingers carding through his hair as some old Springsteen album crackled from a vintage player. Thunder Road. Fitting, thunderous, and true. Sleep came easy, his snores a rumble against my ribs, and for the first time in years, the bed didn't feel like half a space. Weeks blurred into a rhythm, fragile but fierce. Mornings. Coffee runs before his shifts, my sketches pinned to his fridge like love notes. Afternoons. Him crashing my studio, posing shirtless for reference. His smirks turning poses into foreplay. Evenings. Walks in Prospect Park, hands brushing until they laced, defiant against prying eyes. New York swallowed us whole. Subway rides where he'd steal kisses in the sway. Graffiti hunts where I'd tag our initials in hidden alleys. He was healing or trying. Therapy twice weekly. Runs at dawn to outpace demons. I was blooming, illustrations flowing for a queer memoir pitch, colors brighter with him in frame. But cracks spiderwebbed early. His job loomed like a third wheel. Late nights chasing shadows, calls that yanked him from our bed with apologies scrawled on napkins. "Bad guys don't clock out," he'd say, but the wear etched deeper, his laugh thinning. And me? Old insecurities whispered, "He's leaving again. Always does." The first real storm hit on a crisp October eve. Leaves crunching underfoot as we strolled the High Line. City lights twinkling like distant stars. We'd just come from a gallery opening. My first solo show, sketches of lovers in limbo that the crowd murmured over, calling them raw. Tobias had stood proud in the corner, arm around my waist. But as we walked, his silence grew heavy. "Spit it out," I said, bumping his shoulder. The path curved past wildflowers, Hudson glittering below. He stopped, hands shoving into jacket pockets. "Saw Ramirez today, my partner from the stop. Asked about you. Joking but probing." His eyes darkened. Departments got eyes everywhere. Frat boy culture, you know? One wrong whisper, and its sidelong looks, stalled promotions. My gut twisted. So what? We're not hiding. But we were, in ways, stolen touches, vague friend intros at bars. New York was progressive on paper, but precincts? Still boys' clubs laced with poison. "It's not that simple, Tim." Frustration laced his tone. "I've clawed for this badge. Minority kid from the projects, army vet scratching for respect. Coming out? It's Russian roulette. One leak and I'm the punchline. Or worse." Anger flared, hot and unbidden. "So I'm the dirty secret? After everything?" I paced, voice rising over the wind. I thought we were building something real. Not this half-life. He grabbed my arm, gentle but firm. We are. But I can't burn it all down. Not yet. Give me time. Pleading in his eyes, the boy I'd loved peeking through the cop. I yanked free, hurt blooming like bruise. Time's what you stole last time. Don't make me wait again. Stormed off, heels clicking on the elevated walk, tears stinging as the city blurred. He didn't chase, not then. Texts lit my phone. I'm sorry. Doors open. I ignored them, crashing at a friend's in Williamsburg, sketching furious abstracts that bled red and black. Days stretched taut. My show reviews glowed online, but they tasted like ash. Finally, guilt and longing drove me back. Knocked on his door at midnight, rain lashing the stoop like accusations. He answered in sweats, eyes bloodshot. Tim. Shut up, I said, stepping in, pulling him into a kiss that tasted of salt and second chances. We stumbled to the couch, clinging like survivors, whispers turning to promises in the dark. We'll figure it, he murmured against my neck. Together. But doubt lingered, a shadow at the feast. Little did I know, the real betrayal brewed not in his heart, but in the precinct's underbelly. A secret that would test if our love could weather the storm. Fall deepened, Thanksgiving looming with its forced cheer, but our bubble held, mostly. Tobias threw himself into us. Surprise picnics in McCarran Park, where he'd unpack subs from that Italian deli on Knickerbocker, feeding me bites between kisses. We'd talk futures. Vague dreams of a cabin upstate, away from sirens, where he could hang up the badge and I'd ink bestsellers. His shifts eased. He pulled strings for desk duty, citing personal reasons with a wink. And me? I pitched the memoir to an agent, pages pulsing with our story. Veiled, but true, yet whispers haunted. At a queer open mic in the village, a bartender, ex-cop, tats peeking from his collar, eyed Tobias across the room. Heard Reed's got a soft spot, he muttered when Tobes stepped out for air. Watch your back, pretty. Boys in blue play rough with their toys. I brushed it off, paranoia, I told myself, but the seed rooted. Then came the night that shattered the illusion. Black Friday Eve, crowds surging like tides on Fifth Avenue, holiday lights strung like nooses. Tobias had the night off. We planned mulled wine at a pop-up market, hands linked under the glow of lanterns. Laughter flowed easy, his thumbs stroking my knuckles as we sampled spiced cider, the city's pulse syncing with ours. Until his phone buzzed, not the work line, but a burner he kept hidden in his boot. Face paling, he stepped away, voice low and urgent into the receiver. I pretended not to notice, browsing ornaments, but curiosity clawed. When he returned, smile forced, I pressed, everything okay? Yeah, just old army buddy. Nothing. But his eyes darted, evasion thick as fog. We walked home in strained quiet, snow flurrying soft. At his door, I turned, searching his face. Tobias, talk to me. We're past secrets. He hesitated, key hovering. Then sighed, defeated. It's Ramirez. He's got dirt. From back when photos, texts, from us. Snagged him off my old phone during a locker room bullshit session. Thinks it's leverage for God, for promotions, favors. The bastards climbing the ladder on threats. Rage iced my veins. And you knew? How long? Month. Thought I could handle it. Pay him off quiet. Make it go away. Shame colored his cheeks. Didn't want to drag you in. Betrayal hit like a freight train. Not the act, but the isolation. You shut me out. Again. Voice cracking, I backed away. I can't do half measures, Tobias. Not with you. He reached, desperate. Tim, please. I'll report him. Internal affairs. Too late. I fled into the snow, cab lights blurring through tears, heart fracturing anew. The fallout cascaded like dominoes in a gale. I ghosted him, blocked numbers, dodged streets where his patrol might prowl. My studio became bunker. Canvases stacked like walls, sketches of him shredded and reborn as abstract rage. Swirls of blue fury and crimson ache. The memoir pitch, shelved, words too raw to shape. Friends rallied. Mia, the barista with a poet's ear, dragged me to therapy circles and candlelit lofts. Javier, my gallery mentor, poured wine and wisdom over late-night critiques. "Love's not a solo sketch, Mijo," he'd say, eyes kind. "But healing? That's your masterpiece." Tobias didn't stalk or beg, respect or pride. Instead, postcards arrived, unsigned, but his scrawl unmistakable. Quotes from Whitman. "We were together. I forget the rest." They piled on my dresser, talismans of what-ifs. Meanwhile, the precinct churned. Whispers reached me via underground vines. Ramirez suspended pending investigation. Tobias's name floating in hushed tones. A source, that bartender, maybe, slipped me a tip. IA raid. Evidence of blackmail rings threading the ranks. Corruption, not just personal poison. New York chewed its own, spitting out headlines. NYPD scandal. Officer exposed in queer blackmail plot. The morning it broke, I woke to my phone exploding. Texts from strangers, congrats from allies. "Your man's a hero," one read. Hero. The word stuck, thawing the ice around my heart. I found him at our old haunt. The Bean, dawn light slanting through windows like forgiveness. He nursed coffee, uniform rumpled, eyes hollowed by vigils. Spotted me, froze, like I might vanish. "Tobias," I said, sliding in, voice steady. No anger, just ache. "Tim," whispered like prayer. I filed it all. "Ramirez is done, facing charges. Took everything, the photos, the threats. Cleared my name, but the department knows. About us." My breath caught. "And transferred. Desk in Harlem, but out of the shadows. No more hiding." He pushed a folder across, his resignation draft, half-written. "Or this, for you, for us." Tears pricked, his sacrifice laid bare. "You idiot," I murmured, half laughing, half sobbing. "Why didn't you fight with me?" "Fear." He echoed our cafe talk, hand covering mine. Warm, real. "Scared I'd lose you again. But losing you? That's the real war." The dam broke. I leaned across, forehead to his, breaths sinking in the quiet hum. "Then don't. Fight beside me. We're stronger that way." We talked, raw, unfiltered, through the morning rush, baristas casting fond glances. Plans unfurled. His badge stays but boundaries drawn. My art blooms with our truth. No veils. A future sketched in tentative lines. Holidays with his ma in the Bronx. My folks zooming from Ohio. A life woven from Brooklyn grit and quiet graces. But the climax, the true gut punch, came weeks later, under a December sky heavy with promise. Holiday lights festooned the city, carols drifting from stoops like olive branches. We'd mended slow. Therapy dates, tentative touches rebuilding trust. Tonight, Central Park's Woolman rink. His idea, nostalgic nod to our first awkward skate, limbs flailing like drunken swans. Ice gleamed under floodlights, laughter echoing as couples twirled. He laced my skates, fingers lingering on ankles, eyes soft. "Remember?" He grinned, pulling me up. "Falling on my ass?" Vividly. We pushed off, wobbly at first, his arms steady around my waist. Circles blurred. Kids shrieking glee, vendors hawking cocoa. And for a moment, it was just us. Wind whipping scarves, his breath hot on my ear. "I love you, Tim," he said, simple, profound, as we spun to a halt by the rail. "I know," I replied, turning in his hold. "Love you back. Always did." Then it happened, the shock that bound us tighter than any vow. A shout pierced the chill. "Reed! Hail!" We spun, Ramirez's partner? No. A cluster of uniforms at the rink's edge, badges flashing. Not threats, but allies. Tobias's squad, off-duty, faces split in grins. One held a sign. Team Reed. Love wins, crude hearts sharpened in blue. Whistles, cheers erupted as they mobbed us, backslaps and hugs that smelled of pine and solidarity. Turns out, the scandal cracked wider. A precinct purge, Tobias's testimony the linchpin. Brothers in blue, not all but enough, rallied, outing their own biases in a wave of quiet revolutions. Coming out en masse, petitions for policy shifts. Our story, leaked tasteful via a Times profile, from shadows to spotlights. An NYPD love story, ignited it all. We skated on, encircled by light and laughter, his hand firm in mine. No more ghosts. Just us, carving paths on frozen water. Slippery, but sure. Months later, spring thawed the parks. My memoir deal sealed with a rainbow-hued cover. Tobias traded patrol for training, mentoring recruits on integrity. His scar a badge of battles won. We moved to a loft in Greenpoint, windows framing the East River's gleam, walls alive with my murals. Us, in every shade of dawn. It's not perfect. Nightmares still wake him, my doubts whisper on bad days. But we face them tandem, hands clasped against the storm. Love, I've learned, isn't absence of fracture. It's the glue in the breaks, humanistic and hard one. In America's vast, bruised heart, two men from nowhere found their way back. Shocked, scarred, but shining. And on quiet nights, as he traces my sketches with that calloused finger, I think, yeah, we're the pretty ones driving this road. Together.